Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live, sponsored by Jani-King. Parker, take it away.
Yes, folks, Jani-King is the official sponsor of the OU Insider Under the Visor podcast, as well as OU Insider Live as of this week. Very encouraged, very excited to be partnering with Jani-King. Jani-King is the greatest team to ever clean and a proud partner of OU Athletics. They deliver spotless results from stadiums to any size business across the country. You can visit janiking.com for unbeatable commercial cleaning services. Go Sooners. That's the word from Jani-King. Again, very eager to be partnering with Jani-King as the official sponsor of the Under the Visor podcast and OU Insider Live. Also, while we're taking care of any and all administrative things before we dive in, I want to remind you all, go download the Autograph app, link.ag.fan/boomer, and promo code boomer is how you can get started and earn rewards from Tom Brady and his star-studded team at Autograph just for being a fan. You read content, you interact with the community, you get swag. It's very easy. Again, link.ag.fan/boomer and use promo code boomer. And off we go, Brandon. What an eventful couple of days it has been.
It has. I think, where do we want to start? OU is playing the biggest game in all of college football. College game day is going to be there. The Tennessee Vols, the very first SEC game. You also have Cortez Mills posting that he's locked in. And then on top of that, you've got Floyd Boucard announcing that he is no longer committed to the University of Oklahoma. Where do we want to start? There's lots to choose from.
Well, let's just go ahead and start with the bad news. I don't know about you, Brandon, but I always tend to like to get the good news first, but I'm going to break my own rule. We're going to start with the bad news. Floyd Boucard is no longer a member of OU's 2025 class. This was not completely unforeseen. Everybody was kind of unfortunately, I think we portrayed it well enough in July for everybody to understand, and it wasn't hard to tell reading in between the lines with some of Boucard's comments that he still kind of had a bit of a wandering eye. Yeah, he liked Oklahoma. Yeah, he had reason to commit to Oklahoma, but he was still going to listen to other programs' pitches. And now here we are, middle of September. He wasn't even committed for 2 full months. He backs off the pledge. The interesting question to me, Brandon, and I'm working to glean more clarity on it, is now that Floyd Boucard has decommitted, will Oklahoma still be in play? Because all too often, I think when we see a kid decommit, it's easy to figure, okay, he's on to the next thing. He's leaving that school behind. It's not that uncommon, Brandon, for a kid to decommit from one particular school and later wind up recommitting to that very same school. I mentioned this earlier on the radio, but a very, very prominent example in relatively recent years is CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb did that very thing. So I guess the
story behind that's interesting, by the way. I know it very, very well. He was told to decommit. So if you're going to go visit LSU, it was more Dennis Simmons' rule than it was Lincoln Riley's rule at the time. But he was like, I'm not going to have
Bob Stoops that was the head coach.
Correct. But Dennis Simmons told him, like, look, dude, like you got to decommit if you're going to take another visit. But he had told OU, I'm coming back to you. And he did. He held up his end of the bargain. Interestingly.
So it's been such a busy week. Haven't really had the opportunity to really dig in on the Boucard situation. But what I'm going to be curious to know is, moving forward, does Oklahoma remain in play for Boucard? Because, I mean, let's call it like it is here, Brandon. You have Trent Williams, or I said Trent Williams. You have Trent Wilson committed. You have Kamari Moore committed, 2 standout defensive tackles in the 2025 class. You would very much like a third, though, and Floyd Boucard was that third. What are the odds you're going to go out there on the open market right now and find another kid as talented as Floyd Boucard? You're going to have to look for a late riser, or you're going to have to go the JUCO route, or you're going to have to try to be a villain and flip somebody.
Which we've seen Oklahoma be the villain before. So I think if anybody could do it, it's Todd Bates. if we're going to be honest, like and candid, I think he would be the guy that him and Emmett Jones, I could see going out and just straight flipping. I mean, Brandon Hall essentially did that with Oregon and Peyton Bowen. Trying to think of a couple others, but I mean, for the most part, the Todd Bates would be the guy, right? Like he has the relationships. He almost did it with David Hicks.
Oh boy, did he. That
I mean,
that's
he
true.
didn't sign for. He did not sign on National Signing Day. He did not sign the day. He signed an hour before the cutoff. I mean, because he was that up in the air, and then basically got told you were going to A&M, and that's what he did. So,
Yeah.
but he didn't even stay at his parents' house on National Signing Day because he did not want to sign with A&M at the time. So, that's
Dang.
another interesting fact.
Here's here's to me the very first course of action for Oklahoma. Uh, if indeed Boucard is out of the picture, if you can no longer consider it a possibility that Floyd Boucard signs with Oklahoma, what you then have to do is loop back around and make the guys who have the existing relationships tell you no again.
Yeah.
Cole Breeler comes to mind. He committed to Stanford on his very first official visit before getting around to Oklahoma. Christian Evans did the exact same thing. The native
Raw
of
Tech.
Stonebridge, Virginia. He committed to Virginia Tech before even giving Oklahoma a chance on the official visit.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy that OU, I guess maybe technically they have offered him. They've never really pushed a kid down there at Denton Guyer and Xavier Oponu, who's committed to Wisconsin right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a relationship with the staff there. Again, Oklahoma has never really pushed, but they've kept Oponu on the radar. They've kept him on the stove, if you will. So to me, if Boucard is no longer in the picture, first course of action is to go to those three guys and ask them, are you sure?
Mm-hmm. I mean, if I'm Bates, that's what I do. Or I mean, there's got to be somebody else out there. It's almost like when you have like a backup plan, but you don't want to reveal it to anybody. It feels like this is kind of where Oklahoma's at. Like the parting of ways, and I think people need to realize this is that it doesn't feel like there was angst or any vitriol between both parties on this. Like it felt like Oklahoma essentially told him, if you want to take visits, just go ahead and decommit. And I'm not saying that's 100% what happened, but that's kind of the buzz that I'm getting is like, look, if you're going to be wanting to go do all this stuff and not feel guilty and not be hounded by us, you're going to have to decommit because
Yeah.
you committed to us. You knew the rules whenever you committed to us. It's no visits. There you go. Cortez Mills looks like he kind of got it out of his system and then re-upped, which I thought was interesting because Nebraska, on the other hand, is very hot right now to a lot of recruits. Dylan Raiola in it, but it feels like Emmett Jones is still Emmett Jones. He has a way of getting guys to fall back in line. This isn't the first time that there's been buzz about a kid with a wandering eye, and Emmett Jones is kind of reeled him back in and said, "No, brother, you're going here," and that's what happens. So, I don't know. If there was two positions right now that I am not worried about recruiting that decommits are going to happen, or if a decommit happens, i.e., defensive line, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I honestly can't believe, but it's Todd Bates and Emmett Jones. Like I just at the end of the day, they're going to build those two positions up, whether fans worry about it or not. Todd Bates has proven it. Look at the interior defensive line now. Is it the best position on the team right now? It's hard to argue against that.
There's an
Right?
argument to be made, certainly, but no, there's a very strong case. There's a very strong case. Um, let's get to the super chats. We have one, which by the way, we bring this up every week. I'm going to reiterate it. If you want to ensure that your question gets answered or that your desired topic gets touched on, fire off a super chat. You can add any amount of money. as little. I think the YouTube minimum is maybe $1. People throw in all amounts. We make it a point to address every single super chat by the end of the episode. So if you throw us a super chat, we will talk about it. Tim Martin in the super chat says,
We talk
"Howdy
about
from."
others, by the way, but we make those a point just so people don't realize that we're
Yeah. No. We'll get to
so
as many questions as we
yeah.
possibly can, but super chats get the priority. Tim Martin says, "Howdy from Dallas, Boomer. The players that want to be at OU are the players that OU wants." And I think I want to loop back around to something that you brought up, Brandon, because the timing last night was interesting. Cortez Mills and Floyd Boucard make their respective announcements, two very distinct announcements,
Mhm.
within the span of like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So the immediate inference there is that there were a couple of ultimati issued
They can be ultimate tie,
to Mills
right?
and Boucard. I don't know. I would say ultimata
Yeah,
if I
yeah,
know
yeah.
my
Oh, yeah,
Latin
that's probably right,
correctly,
actually.
but
Yeah.
I haven't been in a Latin classroom in years and years. Anyway, uh it would stand to reason that there was a conversation between the OU staff and both of those kids about their respective situations, and one kid reacted one way, one kid reacted another way.
Mhm. I think that kind of cleared it up. Look, do we trust that Cortez Mills is actually going to stay locked in to this and he's not going to
And see,
continue to
that's
have a
the
wandering
thing.
eye?
That to me is going to be the very interesting storyline the rest of the way, because we've been down this road before, Brandon. And I know you remember this very well because you were the one that was primarily covering the Colton Vasek recruitment. The kid visits Texas, reaffirms his commitment to OU, visits Texas again, reaffirms his commitment to OU, visits Texas again, and then finally flips. Similar thing happened with Anthony Evans, that very same class, right? And so, yes, it's great to see Cortez Mills come out with that lock emoji, that unspoken acknowledgement that I'm committed to Oklahoma, I'm staying committed to Oklahoma. That's the end. But action's got to match the message now.
Yeah.
If Cortez Mills takes another visit, if he goes and sees LSU or swings by Miami, well, then that pretty much tells you all you need to know, doesn't it? And
Mhm.
I always tend to be wary. I always tend to be wary a little bit of kids that commit off one visit. And I guess Cortez Mills had two, the spring
Yeah.
game and his official visit, but uh there's just something about that whole deal that still makes me a little bit skeptical. And I'm
Yep.
not,
Same.
and I guess maybe the fault in the logic there is that I'm doubting Emmett Jones, which at this point I should know better than to do. But to me, it's less about Emmett Jones and more about Cortez Mills, right? We already saw him go and visit Nebraska while committed to the University of Oklahoma. Would he go and do something like that again if LSU got on the horn and said, "Hey, we really want you to come see a night game in Death Valley," you know? So
Mhm.
again, it's about actions now. You got a 3-month window where your actions got to match up with your words. So keep an eye on the Cortez Mills situation. I'd love to say that I'm 100% confident the kid winds up signing with Oklahoma. I just don't know whether I could, in all honesty, say that right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know that I trust that he's going to stay committed, and that it has nothing to do with Emma Jones because I think, again, like I've said, I think if anybody's going to hold them to it, Emma Jones, Todd Bates are notoriously the guys that do that. I I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with him being in Florida. Um, Florida kids are different. I
Yeah.
mean, I just that's the best way I
Well,
can describe it to fans is like if you're behind the scenes and you've covered enough of them, you understand that they go about the recruiting process way differently than anybody else in the country. It
and
is weird.
this is a conversation I was just having a few days ago with our outstanding national recruiting analyst down there, John Garcia Jr., who has been instrumental in our coverage of both the Boucard recruitment and the Cortez Mills recruitment. And he said, "Look, these South Florida kids, They are different, man. This is just how it goes for them. They commit and then they still take a bunch of visits. And it's kind of something that you got to be okay with. And you got to get with the program, as it were, if you want to be able to play the long game with these kids and ultimately sign them. So,
Yeah.
uh, I almost said, well, maybe Emmett Jones found himself an exception in Cortez Mills, but again, Cortez Mills did go and take a Nebraska visit, so maybe there is no exception at all. But this is the nature of recruiting South Florida. It's an area in which Oklahoma has some strong relational connections, an area that they would like to go back to in future years,
Mm-hmm.
especially given that they're playing SEC ball now. And one of those areas of the country where you want to be able to go down and at least have a shot with the elite prospects that inevitably come out of that region year in and year out. Especially
Yeah.
in if you are mindful of what's happening at Florida and Florida State right now, Brandon, boy, do you want to emphasize your relationships in the Sunshine State and establish a foothold there? Because Miami looks pretty strong right now, but how often has Miami thrown us a pump fake over the years? Looked good for a while, and then it all comes crashing down to earth. But Florida and Florida State are dumpster fires right now. Absolute dumpster fires. It's tough to imagine things being worse right now for those two respective programs than they currently are.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, if you're Oklahoma, do you try to go see it? I mean, test the waters with Kevin Wynn? Maybe. I know that
I
that's a name
look,
that never. Hey, why
and
not?
and
Why
you
not?
know what? While you're at it, you ought to go test the waters with Chase Lofton too, because OU was that kid's first offer.
Yeah.
His girlfriend signed to run track down at Dallas Baptist, which is 2.5 hours south of Oklahoma, of Norman, that is.
Hell, beat
Uh,
both Solomon Thomas while you're at it.
OU could certainly use another tight end. Like, yeah, if you want to go raid Florida State's class, now is as good a time as ever. If they go and lose to Cal this Saturday, good grief, Brandon. Who wants in on that anymore?
No, I'm
One
with you.
loss, one loss feels a little bit like an aberration. Two, that's a punch in the mouth. Three losses. I mean, if you haven't already actively reconsidered or found yourself actively reconsidering your decision to hop on board with Mike Norvell and Florida State, an 0-3 start, becoming the first team in the history of college football to be ranked in the preseason top 10 and then lose to three unranked opponents, you're certainly reconsidering it at that
Uh,
point.
Even Florida. I mean, again, if they go and they tank it this week, Joseph Mbachu. I know they haven't really touched base with him. They haven't done a lot with him, but why not? I mean, he's got his offer list is stupid. He's obviously he plays at Grayson out of Loganville, which we all know is a powerhouse. So he's going to be able to play. I mean, there's just several guys that you look at and you're like, yeah, why not? Why not? I mean, try to go get a Jeremiah McLeod or something to that extent. Just test the
Yeah.
waters, see what's up.
And there's again, this is as good a time to do it as
Yeah,
ever. If you're gonna go prey on your opponent's weaknesses, you got to do it while they're at their absolute weakest. And
yeah.
you could argue Florida is the weakest it's been as a program in what, a decade right now, and it's been a good while since Florida State was down in the dumps like this. Thank you to John Myrick, who fired off
Yes,
a $50 super chat and said
he's
it was
awesome.
great visiting with you before the game Saturday, Brandon. What do y'all think is the biggest key for a victory this week?
I mean, first and foremost, uh, and I'll go ahead and I said it on the post practice blitz, which you all need to go watch with Dusty Dvorak. He was awesome.
Yep.
He, if y'all want breakdown, dude, that guy's got it. He's awesome. Um, I, you got to have Everett, right, and you got to have um Hickman available, and you got to have Anderson available. I think that's number one. Number two would be obviously stopping the run game. Number three would be getting pressure on obviously Nico, and that I don't think it can be understated, Parker. The crowd needs to be just absolutely bonkers
Yeah, they do.
Saturday night.
Yeah,
You
they
guys
do.
got to bring
And
it. You have to bring it. You have to.
well, and Danny Stutzman called him out last
Yes,
night.
he did.
Um,
He called him out Saturday night after the
Bob
game.
Stoops made a comment on the radio yesterday, much to the same effect. Yeah, the crowd can impact this football game. And especially for a kid like Nico Iamaleava, who's going to be making his first true road start as a college football player. Yeah, you can get in his head, you can rattle him. And if that happens, that sets Oklahoma up well to be able to match Tennessee blow for blow and ultimately, potentially, come out on top. And to me, John, to answer your question, the biggest key is, and it is as simple as this for me. I think whichever quarterback outplays the other is a victor at the end of the night. If
Yeah.
Jackson Arnold outplays Nico, Oklahoma wins the football game. If Nico outplays Jackson Arnold, Tennessee wins the football game. I also think, and this is kind of an ancillary point to the bigger one here, but if you're really going to unlock the downfield passing game for Jackson Arnold, and that's a dimension of the offense that you're going to be able to unleash this week, because we haven't really seen it through 3 weeks of the season. What that's going to require is, okay, obviously Jackson Arnold has to actually hit on those shots, and he's had opportunities, he's missed some. That, yes, you got to get the ball where it needs to go if you want to be able to hit on those shots downfield. But I think you you got to have Deion Burks running more of the route tree than he has through 3 weeks of the season, because we have hardly seen him work downfield. It's been a lot of short, been a lot of intermediate because of how banged up they are. That's the guy that's kind of been the safety blanket for Jackson Arnold. So Deion Burks, though, and you saw it at the spring game, his best work is done downfield. That's where he is dangerous. And getting Nick Anderson back is going to be huge, because what that allows for is you're going to have a downfield threat on every snap, whether that's Anderson on one side with Burks kind of working the short game, or whether that's Burks, burning downfield to the end zone. And it's Anderson that can kind of be the guy that Jackson Arnold reverts to if he just needs a quick completion.
No, I think that's right. I think, but you also got to get the run game. You actually have to actively try to get the run game. And I'm not talking about Jackson Arnold running the ball 14, 15, 16 times a game. I'm talking about getting one of those running backs double digit touches. Haven't really seen a lot of that this year. They need to get consistent touches in the run game. It's got to happen. Play action pass. You got to do that type of stuff. And we haven't seen a lot of that yet because the run game hasn't allowed it to do so. Getting those two offensive linemen back, getting Nick Anderson back. It's a whole new world, like they say in Aladdin, for Jackson Arnold.
Yeah. We got another super chat from Fro. Fro says, in your guys' opinion, what are programs like Georgia and Bama doing that OU is not doing? What does OU need to do to get on those programs' levels? Love the pod. Keep up the good work, fellas. I'll go ahead and answer this one first, because to me it's pretty simple. And I don't think it's something that is within Oklahoma's capacity to do right now, like right this second. Let me expound on that. Nick Saban was at Alabama for how long? 17 seasons? And just handed the reins to Kalen DeBoer. I mean, that program has been self-replenishing for years and years and years. It is a well-oiled machine, the best in college football. And similarly, what Kirby Smart has done at Georgia, and he's been at Georgia since 2016. I believe this is year 9 for him. So what he has been doing, what his staff has been doing, is stacking elite talent on elite talent for years and years and years and years. And not only stacking it, but developing it. And so I do not expect that Oklahoma is all of a sudden going to hit its peak as a program in year 5 of the Venables era, right? I think that's about the point where you can expect, okay, they're seriously competing for a national championship. Yeah, that's a fair expectation. But come year 10, it's an entirely different level at that point. At least you would hope, because you've been stacking talent and stacking talent and stacking talent for so long, and the guys that have stuck around have bought in the weight room and on the practice field, and they've had to bide their time, and you're not rolling a bunch of true freshmen out there, and the true freshmen that you are rolling out there, they're truly special players. And I think we've already seen a ton of progress in that department for Oklahoma in the first, well, I should say 2.5 years
Yeah.
of the Venables regime. But it's not where it's going to be 2 years from now. It's not where it's going to be 2 years from then, or 5 or 10 years from then. The longer you have Coach Venables in place and the longer you can keep some of your key assistants in place, the better the opportunity to be able to get to the point where you have not just competitive depth, but championship depth. Oklahoma has competitive depth right now. I don't know that they have championship depth. And you don't necessarily need championship depth to play for/win a championship. But if you're going to play for championships year in and year out and not just have one memorable run and then you're right back to the low first tier, high second tier of college football, fighting to be able to punch with the heavyweights once again, you need to have championship depth, because once you have championship depth, it's really, really hard to undermine that, Brandon. It's really, really hard to get the trend going in the other direction where that depth is ebbing away. No, you get to the point where you're as deep and as talented as Georgia is and as Alabama is, the machine feeds itself. You got to screw something up at that point.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think time. I look. I was thinking back, and I know that it took Saban 3 years before he played for a national title, right? It was his third year, right? That they played for the Natty.
It was his third year that they played for and won it. Yes.
Yes. And so, and I know Oklahoma's not there quite yet. It's also a different time, right? Venables is coming into college football at a different time period, particularly at Oklahoma when NIL and the transfer portal didn't really allow. Like, if Oklahoma was recruiting at the level that they're recruiting at right now, defensively and offensively, and there was no transfer portal, I don't think it's outlandish to say Oklahoma would be one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the country with what they're doing on both sides of the ball. But they're not, because the transfer portal changed everything. And so it's just going to take the way that BV is building this thing up. Parker's right. It's just going to take time. Like, Oklahoma there's not a lot of attrition with what Oklahoma is doing. You don't see a lot of these dudes, oh, I'm not playing, so I'm going to leave. If guys leave Oklahoma, they were forced out 99% of the time, unless your name's Caden Green. That's the only one I can see here and visibly sit there and go, he wasn't told he needed to go, or it's going to be really hard for them to touch the field. The rest of the guys, for the most part, have been told, we're recruiting over you. You might want to go someplace else if you want to touch the field. That's the reality of it. So they're building it piece by piece, year by year, inch by inch. Does it get frustrating for Sooners fans? Yes, I get it. But at the end of the day, I think where this program's headed, you guys are going to really like it.
Yeah.
2-3 years down the road. I think next year is a year we look at Oklahoma and go, okay, this is what Venables has been building towards. Would you agree with that?
I would. And what I think is going to be crucial in the years ahead, if Oklahoma is going to compete for championships on a perennial basis, is the strength of their NIL collective. And maybe that's the most captain obvious statement that there is, but to me, that is going to be the difference in the era of college football that we are entering the early stages of, between being a contender and a championship program. I think a school like Kansas State, right? A school like Kansas State has proven that with culture and development and solid coaching year after year after year, you can have a school that is perennially a 10-win program.
Yep.
But is that going to be good enough for OU fans in the SEC? No, it's not. They're not just going to want 10 wins. They're going to want a championship. And if you want to elevate, if you want to be able to acquire the type of talent that's going to elevate your program beyond that threshold where, again, you're right where Oklahoma has been in recent years, which is on the cusp, but not quite there.
Yeah.
What it's going to take is a very strong, very well-aligned NIL collective.
Yeah, and there was a question in the chat, and it was, how did Josh Heupel rebuild Tennessee really, really fast? And I'll sit here and tell you that um, he got, you know, fairly lucky with Hooker Hendon. I mean, that to
Hendon
me, that
Hooker.
Hendon Hooker, I'm sorry, I went backwards.
His
Hooker
first
Hendon.
name is not Hooker. Let's be
No,
clear.
I wish it was. I know. I'm sorry. Hendon Hooker. Yeah, I that's essentially what happened because he wasn't very good elsewhere. So the Tennessee struggled. He wasn't even the guy that they thought was going to be the starter. Next thing you know, he's all world.
Well,
If you hit on a quarterback, and let's say Jackson Arnold Saturday just plays out of his mind, and that's what you get out of him the rest of the year. Chances are Oklahoma's going to be pretty damn good.
well,
Quarterback changes
and
everything.
you know what else was instrumental to Josh Heupel's efforts to quote unquote rebuild Tennessee was NIL. Tennessee plays the NIL game and
They
plays
do.
it
They
very
do.
well.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
we're all aware of how much money was forked over in order to get Nico Iamaleava all the way out from Warren, California to
I'm not telling you all because there's
Knoxville,
there's
Tennessee.
there the number
I mean, the
that's
number
out
was
there.
public.
It's not the real number. It's more than that, and that's coming straight from the person that negotiated it. It's more than that. It's a
It's a
lot of
lot of
money.
dollars.
It's a lot of dollars. But that's just the way it is, man. I mean, is it absurd? I think that's the bigger question, Parker. Would you, if you're Oklahoma, are you willing to do those types of things? To, I don't think Oklahoma would do it. I don't think Georgia or Alabama would do it either. That's the thing. I think if you're Heupel in Tennessee, you're not at the same. How do I want to word this without sounding stupid and to piss off the Vols fans?
You're probably going to do that one way or another this
Okay,
week,
I'm just
Brandon.
going to say Tennessee may be viewed as the better team this year. I'll give them that, granted. But overall, if you're a recruit, notoriously, you're not choosing Tennessee over Oklahoma. Even in the NIL era, Oklahoma's been better. So what do you have to do? To get a game changer, you've got to pay out of your mind sometimes to
It's
make it
funny.
happen.
Gosh, it's funny you say that because Tennessee is one of those schools in recent years that Oklahoma just has not won a lot of battles against.
They haven't. It's
No, it's been
crazy.
like you think about it. Kellen Lindstrom was OU Tennessee. Anthony Agumaro was OU Tennessee. Caleb Beasley was OU
But
Tennessee.
before that, OU took all of their cookies 2020 and 2021. They said bring it when it came to transfers.
Well, there was the great Knoxville to Norman exodus
There
in
was.
the spring of 2021.
Yeah.
That did happen.
So I mean,
Wanye
like
Morris, Eric Gray, Key Lawrence.
was that 2021 or
That
2020?
was the spring of 2021.
Okay, 2020. Yeah. So I mean, like it it's happened. And I believe Woody Washington chose Oklahoma over Tennessee. Um, there's been others, Reggie Grimes. Like it's happened. It just lately, you're right. Like they have, and they've thrown, but I think that has a lot to do with Josh Heupel sticking it to Oklahoma as much as he can. When it's a battle, he's going to win that damn thing, man. He's not going to let it happen, which is fine. Oklahoma, I think they ended up, no offense, but I think in the long run, they may end up with better players. Like, so are you going to trade Ogumaro, Fasusi, Foje?
Well, yes, you're going to.
Who wins?
Well, yes. Keep in mind, Tennessee also does have two 5-star offensive tackles committed, though.
They do.
They have
They
David
do.
Sanders and they have Douglas Utu.
They do. They're doing phenomenal this year. I am not disputing that. I'm just saying notoriously that's what happened. But what do they have to do to get those? They have to do a lot more than Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson. Like they have to do more. Do they not? Notoriously,
When
do
you
they
say they
not?
have to do more, what do you mean?
They notoriously like a player is because of the development and the NFL production at those programs that I just named, those programs don't throw out on a grand scale as much money at a player
Oh yeah,
than
no, that's fair. Like for instance, Jeremiah Smith went to Ohio State for less than the highest bid. I think that's
correct.
pretty well known.
I think Fasusi at Oklahoma less
Yeah,
than the highest bid. Like it happens all the time. So, oh, Dejon, somebody said Dejon Terry was the other one that was a good get for Oklahoma from Tennessee, and he wasn't supposed to go. He was supposed to go to Ole Miss.
that's
So,
right.
yeah.
James Stemick threw us $10 and said, "Guys, keep up the great work. Brandon, keep developing your son, future Heisman quarterback for OU. Inside
Oh, I don't know about that one, brother.
inside scoop, who have you guys heard will be back for the big game besides Hickman, Anderson, etc.?"
I mean, I don't think Angel Anthony is going to play. I
Yeah,
mean,
Andrew Anthony. Gosh, that's just such a weird situation
I'm
right
not
now.
even going to get into it. Like that is that. I'm going to leave that up to him. Like that's where I stand on that situation.
And we talked about this last week, but the more Andrell Anthony suits up but doesn't play, the more it becomes apparent that there's gonna have to be a reckoning of sorts at a certain point in time because this is his last year of eligibility,
Yeah.
unless he takes a red shirt. So if he were to take a red shirt and play no more than 4 regular season games, he could come back to Oklahoma in
What if he never
2025.
plays again?
What if he never plays again?
I mean, no, I mean that red shirt or not, like he doesn't even use that and just goes on about his merry way. I mean,
That would be very strange. That'd be very
mm,
strange.
okay.
Would find that odd for a guy who obviously underwent surgery for a major injury, but still directly before that injury had really experienced his productive explosion as a college football player. Regardless, yeah, Hickman should be back. Troy Everett should be back. Nick Anderson should be back. Kendall Dolby should certainly be back. I would not be optimistic that Gentry Williams or Jake Taylor plays.
Yeah, I don't expect Gentry Williams to play for a while. I'll leave that one alone. That's another odd situation. Um, Jake Taylor, he's trying to go this week. I don't know that I would expect him to go. I guess is the best way to put it. Like I think he will give it a try as the week leads on and maybe even try to go out and warm ups. And if he feels good, maybe he goes. But if I'm an OU fan, this is what I think. I think you have left tackle. I think you're going to see Sexton. I think Hickman is going to be at center right now. That I do. As long as they make it through Tuesday and Wednesday is just physical practices that BV is notorious for. They make it out of that alive with no nicks, no bumps, no bruises, no rehashes of injuries. I think you see Hickman and I think you see Everett. I don't know that he starts, but I think he ends up playing more than Ozida at the end of the day if he's healthy and can stay. That he proves that nothing's bothering him and that he's fully ready to go. I think at that point, I think if you're Jackson already, you feel a lot more comfortable. Does that make sense? So I think that's where they stand right now. This game, man, this game is it's got a lot of storylines to it. It's got a lot of intrigue. And not just because it's 15-6, right? Or 13-6, however you want to look at it, but because and not because of the first SEC. You got the Heupel dynamic. You've got oh my gosh, the quarterback, what's his face that played at Oklahoma? Um he's the OC. I just want
Joey
blank. Joey
Halzle.
Halsley. You got the Halsley dynamic. You got the fact that they went head to head for the OT offensive tackle from LSU, um, which was really interesting. And to be quite honest, he's given up more QB hurries than Sexton and Tarquin combined this year.
So
Did you
you're
know
saying he
that?
sucks?
No, he's actually really good. I'm just telling you a stat that is true.
Mm. So you're saying he sucks. Got it.
God, there you go, Parker. Twist my words.
I'm tweeting it.
Yep,
Per
Brandon.
Brandon Drum,
Yep,
Zalance Hurd
the Lance Hurd
sucks.
sucks. He does not. He's really good. Um, so yeah, I just I don't know. There's a lot of intrigue there. I think again, like I've said, Nico, how is he going to react to this crowd? First off, don't sell your tickets. I've seen a lot of these people out there trying to sell their tickets because they're going for so much. Like, don't do it. Just go to the game, experience the first SEC game, be loud. Don't sell them to Tennessee fans. I don't know how hard, like, you know what I mean, Parker? Like, I've seen it. I've seen it online. Like, people are just don't do that. That's ridiculous. And there's students trying to sell, which I totally understand, but they should be the ones that are the loudest and wanting to go more than anybody else. I don't know. But I wonder, as long as the fans show up and they do what we expect them to do with a new communication, right? Like the signs made it easy with loud crowds, right? Because you saw the signal and everybody knew what their job was off the signals up on those boards. But now he's got to communicate through the earpiece. I want to know how much that's going to affect Nico as essentially a freshman, right? How is that with Venable's defense, Alley's defense? Like, how is that going to affect this young quarterback that has looked phenomenal so far? No answer.
Oh, I thought the question was rhetorical.
Well, I don't know the answer. That's why I'm asking it. Like, I don't know if it's how how is it rhetorical if we haven't seen it?
Yeah,
It's
I
something
guess
to be discussed.
I thought you were phrasing the question in a way that was leaving it open to interpretation,
No,
not a
no,
definitive
no. I
answer.
mean,
But
like, there's
anyway,
no definitive answer.
regardless, um, yeah, I mean, we're going to find out a lot about this Oklahoma football team this weekend, and we're going to find out a lot about Jackson Arnold this weekend, because
Yeah,
this is as unique of a football game, at least as far as the lead up is concerned, that I have ever covered or been a part of. Because Brandon, Oklahoma hasn't been a touchdown plus dog at home in decades. Never in my lifetime have I watched, known of, or covered an Oklahoma football game where they are set to take the field at Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium,
yeah,
and they are the very clear underdog.
yeah,
90% of the money in Vegas right now is on Tennessee. 90%, Brandon.
yeah. I don't know. I don't. You want me to be honest?
Sure,
Like,
be honest. Go ahead.
these are the type of games that I feel like Oklahoma generally wins. Historically, when they are this big of an underdog, you know what this game reminds me of is,
Texas last year?
yeah, that's one of them. I was gonna go Alabama Sugar Bowl, and I was trying to think of the Ohio State at Columbus in 2017. Um, there was one that when we were talking to Dusty, that's all I could think about was this game reminded me of that. And Oklahoma went out and won the game. And I cannot remember for the life of me what it was, but it was a pretty pertinent game. I'm trying to think, man. Like I don't know. It feels like everybody and their dog thinks Oklahoma has no chance this week, it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Okay, and
No,
here's
Florida State Cheez It Bowl is what it kind of reminds me of.
okay.
Nobody gave Oklahoma a shot. How big of a dog were they in that game?
Uh, Florida State was
Almost double
favored by
digits.
close. I think it was close to 2 touchdowns that Florida State was
Yeah.
favored by.
That's what it
Which
reminded
was
me of. That's
which
what I
was
was
totally
thinking.
understandable because Oklahoma was down to like second and third string offensive linemen. They had a bunch of I
Sounds
guess Marvin
familiar,
Mims
doesn't
played
it?
in that game, but there were a bunch of guys that opted out. Um, it does, yeah, okay. There are some parallels there certainly. Here's my question, and I raised this earlier in the day. I think it bears repeating.
It's 2000 Nebraska. Thank you. That's what it was because he
What
brought up 2000 Nebraska. But go ahead. Sorry.
what if Tennessee gave us all some non-conference fool's gold? Which is something that happens, Brandon. We all experienced it firsthand in 2022. The narrative coming out of that Nebraska game was, oh boy, like is Oklahoma the second best team in the country? Could they beat anybody not named Georgia?
They
That
were
was
the
a conversation that was being had at the national level, not just by us, but by respected national voices. Is Oklahoma the second best football team in the country? That team went 3-6 in the Big 12 and 6-7 overall, Brandon.
mm-hmm.
So,
And they were a 2 touchdown favorite, I believe, over K State, or it was like a 16-point favorite, right? Going into that game.
well, because
Something
K
to
State
that
had just
extent.
lost to Tulane, and at that
Correct.
point, we didn't know how good Tulane was going to end up being. We just knew Tulane had gone 2-10 the previous year.
Yeah.
That was the year they went and won the Cotton Bowl over Lincoln Riley and USC. But um, I I can't help but wonder, and it's not necessarily a take. That's not an opinion that I have, but I'm just wondering, like, could it be possible that yeah, okay, everybody's enamored with Tennessee. Are they a bit premature in, as Dennis Green would say, crowning them? Because yeah, they've looked awesome through 3 weeks.
Yeah.
They have played three less than stellar opponents.
They're
And one
going to say Tennessee fans are going to say that they've played better opponents than Oklahoma, and I
which is
would.
fair. Yeah, like
But is
okay.
it? I don't care that NC State was ranked. You you struggled against Western Carolina, and you were down 20-3 to Louisiana Tech. How 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 good is NC State?
Yeah, NC State is not very good. That's not a very good football team.
Okay,
And Kent State before
worse than Temple.
the week before they played Tennessee, Kent State lost to St. Francis University of Pennsylvania. I promise I didn't just make that up. That's a real thing that happened. So again, not necessarily an opinion. I'm not firing off hot takes. I'm just asking the question: what if Tennessee is not quite as good as their early 3-0 record and the eye test would indicate?
The eye test show tells me that they're phenomenal. But again, like you astutely said, 2022 Oklahoma, great parallel with the
Yeah.
non-con. And look, Nebraska was viewed at that time as a decent non-con win, but come to find out they weren't very good. Their offensive line made Oklahoma look
Well, we knew it. We
unbeatable.
knew at the time that Nebraska wasn't very good. They lost to
Correct.
Georgia Southern the previous week.
They also had an interim coach, right, at the time. So it was rough go for Nebraska. I I'm just not sold on NC State. I think people keep pointing, well, look what they did to NC State. Okay. And I'm gonna go, dudes, they were down 20-3 to Louisiana Tech at home. Like that should you're a power four program. That should never happen. Did they end up winning? Yes. Was it close? Yes. And people are going to point and say, well, Oklahoma struggled against Tulane. Did they? Because they were up 21-0 at one point. Did they not play well for a little bit, a short period of time in the second half before pulling away again? Yes. And we're also talking about a Tulane team that it took the very last play to beat for K-State to beat them the week before. And K-State is supposed to be a top 15 team. So Tulane is obviously a really good football team. So compare. I think there's some great parallels. How about this? Neutral field. Are you taking Tulane or NC State? I'm taking Tulane.
Tulane. Yeah, I'm taking Tulane.
Okay. That's all we have to right there, done. And I took bias out of that because if I thought NC State was better, I would tell you NC State's better than Tulane. They're not better. I don't know that I would take NC State over Houston by that much, or if at all, right now. Like, I think Houston is getting better and better and better. They were awful against UNLV, but I think we're coming to find out that UNLV is actually a pretty good team outside of how they played against Kansas. Like, I think they're decent. I don't think Houston's very good, but I don't think NC State's very good, I guess is my point. So that's where I'm at right now. Like, you make a really good point. That's why I'm excited about this game, because I think it's going to be closer than people think. I don't know who. I'll say this, just right off the cuff Saturday, I thought Oklahoma was going to lose to Tennessee. But the more I break this thing down, Parker, I'm not saying I think OU is going to win, but I'm not saying I think it's going to be the dominant performance on Tennessee's side that I once thought it was. Does that make sense?
It does.
Like, I'm starting to come around a little bit. Hey, we got a couple of super chats if you want to go for those.
Mongo says, do you know where the game day stage will be set up? Shout out to Buford Halton.
Yeah. Buford Halton.
I do not know.
Buford Halton will be, I think our tailgate's merging with a lot of those guys next week. So Buford, Stutzman, all those guys.
Buford's a good dude.
Yep. So, hey, if you want to come by Brooks to our tailgate, you can come hang out. You might get to hang out with some people. We'll just put it like that. Did Mongo drop another one?
KW of Billings Solar and something. I can't read that entire username. It says Parker.
Solar and Construction.
Solar and Construction. There you go.
Yep.
Parker, thank you for giving voice to the frustrations us OU have. Because fans aren't the problem. The game day atmosphere provided is. It needs an overhaul and reevaluated. Yes, I mentioned this on the radio yesterday. It might have been the most popular thing I've ever said. It was met with absolutely no negative reception and entirely positive feedback. The entire in-game presentation aspect of the OU football experience needs to be torn down to the studs.
Yes.
Because none of it is engaging to the fans. None of it whatsoever. That needs to be an administrative priority in the offseason. Figure out a way to make the fan experience, as far as the in-stadium presentation and MC, all that stuff, find out a way to actually get people involved and engaged with that, because right now no one cares. No one cares. And it does not help that there's some really terrible timing involved with all of it. Like, you got the MC trying to fire up the crowd right before the official is about to announce the outcome of a replay review, or Jackson Arnold throws a pick six and you're trying to start chants. And that's not the MC's fault. MC's just doing what he's told to do, right? But the point is that entire in-stadium video script, like whatever you want to call it, everything that is overseen, or I guess moderated by the MC, everything that is designed to try and drive live fan interaction is just not good right now.
No. So it's the same guy that does the Thunder games, and he's phenomenal at the Thunder games. The Thunder games are interactive. Everybody enjoys them during the timeouts. There's a lot of fun that's had. That committee, the administrative committee that you want to really decide and break that thing down to the studs, needs to be 50 and younger.
Yes, it does. And 50 might even be a little generous.
Yeah, okay, 45 and younger.
40.
Well, that means
you're out of the picture.
I'm out of the picture. Damn,
you have aged out.
1 year. It is what it is. But yeah, something needs to happen. Like, I'm with y'all. Like, I think it's rough to watch. Like, I don't know. They need to figure something out.
Yeah, well,
they need a DJ like honestly, like Tennessee does, and a lot of other, like, I think Alabama, Georgia, they have big DJs. like pregame, and they have fun. Like it's like interactive and all that type of stuff.
Well,
And
and the most frustrating thing to me is they're trying to make that Toby Keith sing along catch on at the end of the third quarter,
it needs to be How Do You
and
Like
it's
Me
just
Now?
not catching on.
No, or Red Solo Cup.
Yeah,
It's just,
which is like, okay, if the stadium is not week in and week out over the moon to jump in and sing along with the Oklahoma legend that is Toby Keith, there needs to be some introspection at that point.
yeah. I think you're just not going to get. It's going to happen all year. I think maybe they change the song, but you're going to get Toby Keith, and I want it to be Toby Keith. I'm not. I dislike country music. I'm sorry, country music fans. I dislike country music. There's a handful of country music artists, a handful of country music songs that I like. I just don't like country music all that much. But Red Solo Cup, How Do You Like Me Now? I, How Do You Like Me Now is they literally got up and sang the OU softball team sings that after every national title. They did it up on stage with him at Toby Keith's Bar and Grill. The fans would love that. You throw that up there on the video, the softball girls singing that, everybody would jump in on that. Like it's not that hard. They're making it so much harder than it is.
Yeah,
You
it's
probably
just
can't do the Tennessee the part about went left and went to Tennessee part this week. You might want to stick to like Red Solo Cup or something, but
very,
um,
here you go, very simple way to address some of the issues that you faced through the first 3 weeks with getting that song to catch on. Put the lyrics on the screen. Don't assume that everybody knows that song by heart.
it's true. Not everybody's a country music fan.
KW followed back up and said their lack of awareness, ability to read a room, and capability of using this living, breathing thing full of energy known as Sooner Nation to impact play on the field has gone from frustrating to just sad. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, it is what it is. I'm not against the Toby Keith stuff. I want Toby Keith to be honored, legend,
Yeah.
freaking legend.
Well,
Just
again,
figure out a way to do it to where everybody can sing the dang song.
yes. Again, the fact that it's not catching on is certainly not a Toby Keith problem.
Yeah,
Find me in Oklahoma that doesn't love Toby Keith. It has to do with the way that you are framing and presenting the song.
yeah. I mean, hey, the song that everybody really loves is unfortunately by an Oklahoma State guy, and it's um Oklahoma. Oh my gosh, it's
Ain't no
the
love in Oklahoma.
well, yeah, there's that one, but that no,
They've started playing that one like 6 or 7 times every single game.
yeah, well, that's every time the defense comes out. Holy crap! Oh, now I gotta look it up. It's by um Oklahoma Smoke Show by Zach Bryan. I know everybody loves that song too. So
That's not a
um
hype song.
it's not a hype song, but the two or three times they played it as like it's a chosen song, the whole stadium sings it. As weird as that is, I'm just saying like they got to figure out something that everybody's going to know is my point. It doesn't need to be that song. I'm just saying. So, um, do we want to do a prediction on this week? Are you ready to do a prediction this early? Or are you?
No,
I'm
no.
not either.
Ask me again on the pregame podcast.
I'm not either. I'll just say this. If you asked me on Saturday, I would have said 31-17 Tennessee. I think it's so much closer than that. And I think it's going to be awesome. Somebody said, Boomer 129 said Sabotage by Beastie Boys. Now, I would love that song because I'm 41 years old. Parker probably has no idea what that song is.
I mean, I'm
Admit
familiar
it.
with the Beastie Boys, but
You don't know
I,
Sabotage, do you?
well, yeah, I know the song. I know the song.
Okay.
I don't know the lyrics. Like,
Yeah.
I know the opening guitar riff, but that's about it. I tap out after that.
Yes, everybody. That's why I said Zach Bryan does not like he's an Oklahoma State guy. That's why I said I wouldn't do this song, but I just said something of that ilk that everybody knew. So I'm very much aware that he's an Oklahoma State fan. Um, I don't know. But again, how close do you think? Do you think this game is going to be a fourth quarter game?
Yes.
Me too.
Yes, one way or another, regardless of who comes out on top, I think this is a game in the fourth quarter.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. We got a lot more coming for you guys. I have a really cool, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you guys. Cousin Shane's coming on with me tomorrow. I'm recording. It's going to be kind of behind enemy lines. We all know he and SEC Mike are big Tennessee fans, right? So Cousin Shane is going to be doing a behind enemy lines video. It's going to be about 20 minutes long, and I will have that for you guys. Are we going to release it Thursday, Wednesday night, Parker? How do we do? Have we decided on that yet?
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
It'll be Wednesday or Thursday that it gets released. Either way, in the evening or Thursday sometime. But yes, we have Cousin Shane coming on with us. It's going to be really, really cool. He's a great interview. He's a lot of fun. He's very knowledgeable when it comes to Tennessee Vols. So you guys are going to like that. We got obviously a pregame podcast with Parker, myself, Travis Davison, Grill Boy, the voice of the fans. And we've got a lot of other podcasts with Barry and Mac, Oklahoma Drill with Jesse and Brian as well. If you're not on OU Insider VIP, go do it. This is the week to do it. The visitor list, which we didn't even get to, is going to be absurd. Absolutely absurd this week. We've already talked about it. We've thrown out a bunch of big names already over the last few weeks that are going to be there. As a matter of fact, and I'm not patting our back or saying anything, we were the first to throw out several of them because, one, it's cheating because at the Rivals 5-Star Challenge, they told us they were coming at the Tennessee game. So well, we knew about it a long time. So our fans have known about these guys for a while. We will have a big list for you guys up Thursday and Friday, and it's going to be awesome. Bunch of 4-star, 5-star guys. You think the best list that Oklahoma's brought in since when, Parker? Been a long time.
I don't know. I don't know if I have been on the beat for a game that had this substantial of a visitor list, not just as far as numbers,
there you go,
but as far as talent.
Yes, there you go. There you go. That tells you all you need to know. It is absurd. So we'll have that over there on OU Insider VIP. We've got recruiting notes coming up for you guys. Also this week, we've got a bunch of other stuff. I got a VIP chat. Jesse has his mailbag. Parker's got more notes, recruiting, all that stuff coming up for you guys. Obviously, Brody Lusk has been killing it on the basketball. He was way out in front of everything that's already happened. If you were on VIP, you knew that stuff was going to happen. So be a VIP member. It's $9.95 a month or $99.95 will get you a whole year. If you are a college student, email us at ouinsider@rivals.com, and we will get you OU Insider for 1 year for $11.95. That's not even $1 a month. Not even $1 a month. Again, email us, ouinsider@rivals.com. I will send you a promo code for you to be able to get OU Insider for 1 year for $11.95, but it's got to be from a .edu. You have to email us from .edu email to make that work. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure you hit all the notifications. Make sure you're subscribed to all of our podcasts, all of our podcast channels, no matter if it's iTunes, Spotify, whatever. Give us 5 stars. Give us thumbs up, whatever. Hit the notification bell. That way you know every time we drop a new video or a new podcast, you get notified that it's up. That way you can listen and learn a little bit more about the Oklahoma Sooners. We appreciate every one of you guys. We appreciate Jani-King for being a sponsor. So for Parker Thune, for Spencer Foresight, my name is Brandon Drum. Thank you all for watching the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners YouTube Live, powered by Jani-King. We will see you guys for the pregame podcast.